Hiya, welcome to LSB Feasters Radio Channel and Travel Corner. Our mission in life, keeping great radio from the past alive. And today, we're going to Washington and 106.7 WJFK and Don and Mike. In fact, the final Don and Mike show. For over 20 years, Don and Mike were a force on the radio from December 1985 until April 11th, 2008. The pair had a zany radio show originally on WAVA, the WAVA Morning Zoo. Then in 1991, they moved over to WJFK, where they took over the afternoon show. And in addition to Don and Mike, you also had Buzz Burbank, who did news, and Robb Spewak, who served as the show's intern. The show featured parody songs, comedy bits, and lots of listener games and listener phone interaction. It was a fun show. In later years, Don's wife, Frieda, joined in on the fun on the show. And the show became pretty popular. So popular, in fact, the show became syndicated and was heard coast to coast. Sadly, in 2005, Don's wife, Frieda, lost her life in a car accident. Now, the show went on for a couple more years, but truth be told, Don's heart just wasn't really in it after he lost his wife, and he was also unhappy with some things that were going on in the radio industry at the time. So, he said he was leaving the show, and he did his final show in 2008. Here is the final Don and Mike show. If you like it, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel, too, if you like. All right, let's go back to 2008, the final Don and Mike show on 106.7 WJFK, Washington.
This is the Don and Mike Show.
Meantime, the Don and Mike Show are going to sign off the radio airways for the last time today. John Geronimo, whose real name is Mike Source, is retiring, ending a run of 23 years for the show. Geronimo's partner, Mike O'Mara, will continue to work at WJFK. The Mike O'Mara Show, co-starring Buzz Burbank, starts Monday.
What a long career.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's been in the business 35 years. Hopefully he'll return one day. Wants to get his life together and all that kind of thing. Just feels like it's a time to leave. But I'm going to miss that show. I've talked about it before. I'm a huge fan of the show. It has made me laugh so many times over the years. I'm really going to miss him. But we wish Don the best. And I'm glad Mike is hanging in there and doing a new show starting Monday.
Buzz Burbank. Do you know Buzz?
Buzz is the news guy who I've always said, Buzz is like...
Oh, you're going to love this. Have you heard this?
No, I haven't, no.
It's too bad we dismissed him. You're going to love this.
This is a Buzz segment?
Well, it's just more of Buzz being Buzz.
The news guy who I've always said, Buzz is like the secret weapon on that show because he says some very funny things kind of under the radar.
Right.
He's very, very funny. Yeah.
It's about to be on the radar.
Yeah, that's right.
So we'll see. Okay.
Wish you the best, Don.
Yeah, end of an era.
Speaking of radar.
Yeah.
All right. Everybody loves Buzz, don't they? God damn it. Well, I love him too.
All I know is that they're different than you, and that's what counts. The Don and Mike Show.
She won't leave my buttocks alone.
I know.
Why do you favor rape?
I don't think we do.
Hey, Brenda, should we gang you money?
Here he is. I don't think we do.
Is everybody happy?
How y'all doing?
Oh, I forgot to put on panties.
I guess the word is anal.
Who didn't feel that way?
Isn't that the second time she said John Geronimo?
Yeah.
It's the second time. It's like the second report they've had.
Well, she doesn't listen to the show. She reads the prompter. She could barely get out It's like she's doing an eye exam. WJF. Is that a K?
That annoys me. For some reason, that truly annoys me.
Let's see, Mike, before you and I get to the real nitty-gritty.
Yes?
What do we have? We have the Belcher made a couple of calls.
Okay.
A couple of final calls.
Mm-hmm.
You know the douchebag guy?
Yeah.
That guy, you.
I love him.
You're the douchebag. All right, here we go.
And you're on the radio. You're on the radio. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
How are you this morning?
Okay.
I tuned in a few minutes ago.
You did. What do you want me to do? Give you an excuse for coming in late?
I'm sorry. I'll bring a note next time.
Well,
I just wanted to say that I've enjoyed listening to you for years, and it's been a pleasure to be a caller to the show and to participate in the show. And I wish you all the best, and I just wanted to
Come on, let it go.
say thank you for years and years of great radio. Don Geronimo, and whoopee!
Is that his response? Just the laugh?
And then there's one final call to Hugh Hamilton.
Ah, very good.
But on the other hand, if sex offenders are people too, then where are they supposed to live? How do we solve this public policy dilemma? Your solutions right now. Good afternoon. Talk back. You're up first.
Talk
Hello.
back.
Mr. Hamilton.
Yes, sir.
There is a simple solution, barring internment camps, what to do with convicted sex offenders. It almost sounded like a bumper sticker slogan, the way you said sex offenders are people too. But as I said, barring internment camps to keep them away from humanity in general, I would say that you could also put them in a soon-to-be vacant radio studio in Rockville, Maryland.
Oh, come on. Now you see, you can overdo a good thing. Come on.
Overdue.
I'm Hugh Hamilton.
Hugh Hamilton. Oh, come on.
All right, thank you very much, Belcher guy. Well, we're coming down now, Mike, to crunch time.
Yes.
I like this. As the studio gets darker and it gets emptier.
It's really emptying out here. It's kind of sad, isn't it? I mean, you see the rooms one by one, the lights go off, and it's just you and me in this tiny little studio, as it has been for over 20 years.
I think
How many years has it been exactly? Is it 23?
This is our 23rd year together.
Jeez.
Yeah, I think probably our tightest working conditions were when we were at WAVA, when they were rebuilding the studio, and we had to do our show out of the news cubicle. Remember we had Vicki Lawrence come in that day?
There was there was a big studio at WAVA, which they were putting new equipment in, and they moved us. We were actually, at that stage in our careers, somewhat cooperative with management, where we said, yeah, we'll go ahead and do that.
We'll work in a small room with no ventilation and a bunch of hot machinery for like 2 weeks while you take your time to rebuild the studio.
And the only celebrity that came by during that period of time was Vicki Lawrence.
Baby!
And I'm not sure whether in the wee hours of the morning that you and I
Vicki Lawrence!
Mommy boobies!
You and I had actually taken the time to practice perfect hygiene.
Vicki Lawrence!
Why do you favor rape?
But it was...
Vicki!
I better bring my rubbers.
It was special. I just remember being very conscious of my breath. I was very conscious of my breath. Well, I believe in those days I may have had a smoke or two during the show.
Just those days.
Just those days. Well, in the studio. And I want to thank you for that. Back in the old days.
Well, as I smoke in the studio now.
I mean, it's just,
it's funny how things turn around.
It was a very strange experience. I can't even imagine that I would do that today. But, I sat there in a airtight studio. We were airtight, man. Airtight. With the cigarette going the whole time.
When we were talking about the Challenger before, that was a bad day for America, but a great day for us because, as it turns out, we were to the point, Mike and I were to the point we were having some success working together, and we wanted to play less music and talk more. And even though our ratings were going up exponentially, the station said, well, you're outperforming the station. Remember at WAVA, they would say, okay, here's the good news and the bad news. The good news is you guys are up to number 3 in the ratings.
Right.
The bad news is the rest of the station's in 10th place. So rather than have the rest of the station adapt to what we did, they said to us, we think you should play more music to sound like the rest of the low-rated station.
Oh, there was a battle. I mean, it seems to me that there wasn't a day at WAVA where there wasn't a battle about music.
So what happens is that the consultant, Alan Burns, with his goddamn King Richard haircut, he's going to call us down to the Keybridge Marriott, where we're going to have breakfast at 11 a.m., and Mike and I had decided, going into this meeting, that this is where the rubber meets the road.
We were going to put our foot down and say, hey, we're successful. We want to continue to be successful, and the only way that's going to happen is if you let us do the show the way we want to do it.
Now, as it turns out, the way things work out, we sat down. We were there before him, plotting out the room, saying what door is he going to come through. And do you remember?
He was at the table, I believe, when we got the notice. Because the waitress came over.
I was going to say, so he had arrived.
I'll never forget that waitress.
And it was an awkward moment, and the waitress walked up, and she said,
bulletin, Bulletin, gentlemen, the space shuttle. I think she said, Bulletin, I think the space shuttle just blew up. And she said it in such a way that we didn't believe it at first because she was so crass.
We
the
thought
way
she was
did
making some type of, like, joke, and because we did, at the time, a semi-risque show, we thought, all right, she's making a joke with us.
Yeah, and she walked away, I think, after that. And then we see people off the dining room that were in the little lounge area, and they were gathering around in the lounge area, and we walked in, and that's where we saw it for the first time.
And at that point, then, the consultant says, well, we really shouldn't have this discussion today.
Mm-hmm.
And Mike and I went in the next day, and that was the first day we never played one song on our show.
And it was weird that it had happened when the actual meeting with the consultant was going to be about playing records.
Yeah, that's how, I really don't believe when people say everything happens for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so. I don't think there's that divine plan. I do think when God closes a door, he opens another one. And if you choose to go through the door, you might get bit in the ass, but you might get something good out of it.
And it was also
that's what I think happened there, that it was just the time that we had enough.
Yeah.
We were going to tell this guy to get off.
We had a reputation, even at that stage of the time, we were beginning to develop a reputation as, it's the squeaky wheel, the guys that are complaining all the time, guys that are troublemakers, guys that, don't take anything seriously. And we go in the following day, and we did the opposite show from what anybody could have ever believed that we would do. And what struck me is you and I, when we were doing that show, knew it the whole time. I mean, it was nothing for us to go in and do that. It was so easy for us, and I don't want to say easy under the circumstances, but I want to say it was easy because the serious switch to the serious content was not an effort for us. We were doing what we did anyway, which was talk about reality. And everyone that came up to us after we did that show, you remember how incredulous people were? They were all saying, wow, I can't believe you guys were able to do that.
And it was
to the point where it started to get a little annoying.
And it was not that we had done something on the show that was shocking, or having girls get naked or people eat bad stuff. It was people were coming up and saying, we've never heard radio like this before. And thank God we were able then to go to the consultants and the people at the station to say, listen, the show's definitely taken a turn this way.
I don't want the listening audience...
Meaning less music and more talk.
I don't want the listening audience to think that we really enjoyed doing shows about tragedies. The part that was gratifying to both you and me is on both those occasions, and those are the ones over the career that jump out, 2 shows, it was a chance to really communicate intimately with our audience, and in such a way that we both were aware while it was happening that we were doing the audience some good, and we were doing ourselves good. And that's what I remembered. And I think that what it showed both our listeners and also management at the time was we can do anything that's thrown our way. And that one little show where we just talked to listeners who were pouring their hearts out because everybody was affected. And I think a lot of people that are younger in our listening audience right now might not know how significant that space shuttle tragedy was for people. It really was an amazing tragedy.
And for us, it was a validation that the direction we wanted to move in was the correct direction.
Yeah.
Because on the occasions when you had to stop and be serious, we could do it. But then we found it impossible to go back to the shuck and jive. Hey, good morning. How you got to do it? Even though, we were surrounded by crazy, a guy with a hi hat and a guy with a horn, and we actually at one point had a live chicken in the studio, and it was absolutely everything that we were not at that point wanting to be, and making the transition was really helped by the support we got from our listeners back then.
You bet. I mean, that doesn't exist. That show that we did that day would not have been possible without the participation of people who I realized at that moment that radio not only informs and entertains, but radio, people that participate in it, they're feeling this tragedy and they want to get it out. And they want to get it out to a lot of other people. And it made sense to me. And we've done it a couple of times since. We've done it on a variety of levels. And it's, to me, the most satisfying radio we've ever done.
It's like even after Frieda's show. And I think I mentioned earlier that I get ooged out still when people will come up to me. And people very well-intentioned will say, hi, I love the show. I loved Frieda. I loved that show about Frieda. Well, the show came easy because I was talking about the love of my life, but also it came easy because, as you mentioned, we'd been through crisis, and I just went into that mode for that particular show. It wouldn't have been prepared to, as it turns out, I've said many times, I came back too early, but the one thing I'm glad about is that my true feelings for Frieda came out that day on the air. And they wouldn't have if I had not been prepared by having been through other stuff that was heavy and it made the transition back and forth. You and I also have something that most radio guys want and they can't ever get, and it's chemistry. And it's even like right now, as our conversation goes back and forth.
Right.
And admittedly, I talk more. But when Mike wants to talk, we have got almost an unspoken communication now between us.
It's been that way. Would I be overstating it if I said it's been that way since the very first show that we did?
Since I did an afternoon show and you came and sat in.
Yeah, I came in the first time I met you. You were in a production studio, and I think I approached you, almost pitched you because I had listened to you when you were at WPGC, and I had been a fan of your show. And Gene Baxter, a guy that's known as Bean, does a show out in L.A. now, Kevin and Bean, a very successful morning show, I believe, out there right now. And Bean came up to me in the hallway, and Bean says, "You'll never guess who we hired." I was doing production for the station. I was actually the production director part-time. I would come in and do production directors basically do promos and commercials for the station. And that's what I was doing part-time for the station. And Bean walks up to me and says, "You'll never guess who we just hired." And I said, "Who?" And he went, hey. I said, "Geronimo?" "Oh, great. So you'd work there for a while, and I'd come in a couple of days a week, and we wouldn't see each other." And I went in, and I think I saw you in the production studio, and you were the way you are when you meet people for the very first time. You couldn't have been more charming.
I'm shy.
You're very shy. And then what did I do? I said, "Do you need an agent? You need a Jewish agent." And then I said,
you started just screwing around in the
production
room
studio
with me, and then the litmus test for Mike was, I said, "Okay, great. We can work on that." But I remember very, very clearly going back in, not wanting to tape anything, and calling Mike back into the studio, and with him not knowing what was going on, just saying, "Hey, my agent is here."
And we riffed on it, at that moment, and a few things back behind the scenes went on, and then it seemed like in the blink of an eye we were doing mornings together right after that, and it all started with with me coming into you and saying, and then you coming up to me. Because I guess you realized early on the chemistry was there. You were, had much more major market and overall radio experience than I had.
It's so rare. There were these guys in Chicago that I listened to, Steve Dahl and Gary Meyer. They were a great influence on my career as well. Steve Dahl is the first guy back in 1981 that I had ever heard do an all-talk show where the guy really talked about anything that was going on in his life. And he had a good rapport with the guy that was his partner. But even when I would listen to them, I would notice that it was really Steve Dahl talking, and then Gary Meyer would go, "Uh-huh." And when Steve Dahl had to go to the bathroom, Gary Meyer would talk. We do not have that relationship. We have an ongoing conversation.
You're right. It's always been like that. There's always been, as far as personal feelings are going here, and we're doing a lot of that on today's show, it's very easy for people to come up and say, "Hey, you're the funny guy." Nobody understands the real workings of the way, and I was going to save this till the end, but I'll say it now. The way it works is you have to have one guy that allows the other person to be funny in a partnership. It has to work that way. And the challenges I face going forward are to be able to set a table like you set a table. And that's not easy to do.
You're going to have a hard time because you don't have someone like I have you. You and I have such a chemistry together.
Right.
And I enjoy your success. I enjoy, like I mentioned, that thing with the Empire Carpet Guy.
Right.
I mean, for me, that was always...
I would play to you. I mean, the audience we'd play to each other. I mean, nobody, if there was one person at the top of the list that we like to make laugh, it would be each other. And that was from day number one. Also, I'll throw this at you, and this is just talking about partnerships in radio, in show business, because there have been some great ones over the years that you think about where there's that tension, too.
Elliott and Woodside.
Elliot would say, that's the first team that I thought about. There has to be, I do believe this, in order to be successful, there has to be that brotherly, competitive spirit. And do you think there's ever been a radio team that was more competitive than you and I?
We would both be going after the same prize and not realize that we were losing sight of the prize because
it was early on.
Because we were pushing each other out of the way.
Early on with guests, that's what would happen.
Well, just imagine two guys trying to run through a door to get to a piece of pie at the same time. We were constantly doing that.
And that was really that was a situation where you have to let it find its way, and it did. And and frankly, you eat, sleep, breathe this business, and I realized that I can't sit there and just be punching with you all day long, and one guy's got to take the lead. It always has to work that way in every partnership, and it did. And one thing that we never disagreed on were the big issues when it came to dealing with management, when it came to me getting paid what I got paid, and the fact is we never disagreed on the big stuff. And on the huge issues, the little nitpicky stuff, we'd have our moments like any partnership. My God, over 23 years.
But there was never a doubt that Mike had my ass every single day, and I had his. Had your back.
Absolutely. And and boy, I'll tell you, when we had a common cause, as far as the dancing that we would do,
forget about it. You could not beat us.
It was unbeatable, and that's the way it worked. But the chemistry is right. I mean, it was, you cannot fake that, and that's when it's like it flows like water.
I can only equate it to I love everything in football, and I've told Mike this before off the air. I've always said to Mike, I consider myself to be like the Peyton Manning of this team. And Mike is the star player, Marvin Harrison. How many times have you seen Peyton Manning go to the line and just look at Marvin Harrison? And what it means is we're changing the play. Mm-hmm. I'm looking at you this way. Do you know what I mean? And you look back. I cannot tell you literally thousands of times we'd be in the middle of something. It's happened today. And all of a sudden, I don't have to say to Mike, hey, we're going to go this way, we're going to go this way. You know what we're going to do.
Yep.
And that's because we've had 23 years of a very, very harmonious friendship and partnership.
You talk about going forward and the challenges that I will face, not having somebody with the chemistry. And I have great relationship with Buzz and with Robb. But when you talk about that, I would say, we're gonna have a lot of fun.
I was
with
not
this.
trying to diminish.
Oh, I know exactly, but I know exactly what you meant. And of all the things that I will probably never enjoy more going forward, my little silly voices that I've done for 20 years on this show, it'll never, ever be as much fun as it was when I would play to you, because that is where it was just right hand, left hand, bing, bang, boom, and it would work. And you want to talk about changing the plays, that's when we both changed the plays in the middle of it, and nobody get fazed by it, and so much fun would be had. And that's the thing of all. I mean, as far as the day-to-day playing the game, that's what I'm going to miss the very most. As far as the work ethic that you have going in, I make a joke about it, but quite frankly, I go forward spreading the work that you did, because nobody's capable of living and breathing it like you did. I've never seen anything like it. You do. You live it. It's at 10 o'clock at night, at 6 o'clock in the morning. It's always on your mind, and that makes for great radio. And it's been fun. It's been a blast.
It takes someone with a lot of patience, as you have. This would not work if we were both of the same personality.
It couldn't.
And
I don't think there's any way that works.
I'm a little bit too much type A, and you're a little bit too much sometimes type B.
Right.
And together, as we've said many times, half a brain here, half a brain there equals a full brain.
Oh, and as you mentioned before, when the time would come, when it would be time to get it done, and we'd have a battle, and boy, we had battles.
We did.
The battles we have fought over the years, and we'd have little hand gestures that we'd use. They weren't dirty or anything, but one of them was one of them that I loved the most, that we both used, would be the little puppet move, where we'd be handling the marionettes, and we both used it. I'm not giving anything away by saying this. We'd handle, we'd look at each other. We'd come out of a meeting with some kind of management, and we both look at each other, and we just do the little marionette move, because we had played the game. We'd played the game so well.
The manager would leave thinking that they had beaten us, and actually we had turned it around on them, just made them think that they won.
Right.
I mean, does anybody out there relate to that?
I'm
what
sure
that's like?
that people that in any kind of corporate environment, when you walk into,
we would walk out a lot of times and just go, those suckers.
The toughest thing about, what the toughest thing was about all of this going forward with you going, to do what you're going to do and hopefully have a wonderful, happy life, and me staying on and having to, deal with the suits and sell myself to these suits. And I said to myself, wow, doing the show, totally, I'm fine. I'm fine with that. That will evolve into whatever it evolves into. It'll never be the same. It'll be what it is. But the behind the scenes dealing with management, I became so conditioned to rolling everything by you. And, it was so much fun in a way to say, okay, here's how we're going to play this one. And we did it. And we did it successfully for a very, very long time. You came to me way back when in the WAVA days, and you said to me, I won't mention the dollar figure, so we're going to make this much money. You and I are going to make this much money. And I'm going to look you in the eye right now and tell you were wrong. You were wrong by a few multiples.
We made more, didn't we? We done good.
We have, and but that's not what it's all about. What it's all about is having the chemistry, and really, when I say the competitive thing, that's fun too. And once we got our heads around it, it became more fun and more enjoyable.
Once we figured out that we were like brothers,
right?
Meaning, and really, very literally, I could say to Mike, hey, screw you, you're a dick. Now, if somebody else says to Mike, screw you, you're a dick, I would be the first person to jump in their face.
Well,
as you would and have many times.
And what I joke with people about, because really, when you talk about 23 years and you're talking about the number of altercations, real fights that we've had, we haven't had many, but I will tell you the ones that we would have, would they head for cover at the radio stations? So you wouldn't have people in the hallways. People would actually be hiding under desks when we would go at it.
Mom and Dad are fighting in the production room.
And that, as time went by, that didn't happen as often. And, it's always been fun. And as I've always said to everybody about this show, everything around it, all the behind-the-scenes stuff, you know what? If you came to me 20 years ago and said, this is what you're going to have to deal with, I would have said, there's no way I'm going to do this. But the actual day-to-day doing the radio program and being in here and having fun, there's no better job in the world. I mean, it is so much fun.
I've got to be honest.
Turn on the microphone.
I wouldn't change it.
Mm-hmm.
I think we are better people, really, for all the fights that you and I have been through together.
Mm-hmm.
It's what kept the show together.
Right.
We had our personal moments, too. When your dad died,
mm-hmm.
when you went through your divorce.
Right.
And then you returned the favor when Frieda passed away.
We've called each other. We've been on the telephone with each other at probably, well, no, not probably, absolutely the lowest times of our life. I remember, here's the strange thing about, and I don't want to dwell on Frieda passing, but I will tell you, I remember vividly.
You were my second phone call.
That whole afternoon leading up to that phone call. Do you know what I have no memory of?
What?
None. Zero. Of that show I did the next day. I literally don't remember doing it. I don't remember anything about it. I blank on it completely. Leading up to that, I remember that. I remember just being in shock, and I think really just dealing with that whole thing. It was, you did it. I mean, you do it when you have to deal with all of that tragedy. You go into an autopilot mode.
Yeah.
And I don't have any memory.
And I don't even, about that day, too. It's weird, your priorities.
You told me, you said, hey, just go in. You were doing it because you felt a responsibility
it's like,
to all of us. You
I
said,
remember
go in and do the show. I want you to make the announcement.
Standing in front of a hospital. And I had just got done calling Bart to tell him this awful news. I thought, well, I got to call Mike. Because, hey, the show's got to go on tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, that was a great day. We should break, and you and I get all sloppy in a minute, okay?
Okay, very good.
All right, be right back on the final Don and Mike Show.
This is the Don and Mike Show. This is the Don and Mike Show.
Being careful?
Oranges, sponges, who said?
Oops.
Oranges, sponges,
Yep.
who said? Oranges, sponges, who said? There ain't no rhyme rhyme for oranges.
What not?
Oranges, oranges. There's another one. Oranges, oranges. There's another one. Oranges, oranges. There's another one. Another rhyme.
She won't leave my buttocks alone.
That's a tip. It's oranges cause it's got no rhyme, but we got news for this.
He's what you call anal, isn't he?
Oranges, who said? Oranges, oranges. Who said? Oranges, oranges. Who said there ain't no rhyme for oranges?
Oh, my.
What glorious goo.
Peter North. Oh my God.
Ain't they never heard of oranges? Oranges, oranges, oranges.
A kumquat.
A kumquat?
The Don and Mike Show.
I can't believe it. These guys are fags.
We are.
These kids are fags. I can't believe it. No, God damn it, they're fags.
We are.
It's just calling us names, Mike.
What is he, a faggot?
No, and I'll tell you why. Because I don't look at the whole.
We do.
God damn it. The Don and Mike Show.
Well, this is what it comes down to for you and me, my friend.
Yeah, I'm thinking about that oranges. That's put an R on that one. That I'll never play that. There's stuff seriously that I going forward that I think about.
Hey Don, Mike, about that last comment, you're on your own.
Stuff like that, it's funny, when they were talking to me about, what do you keep, and I said that'll be to me as easy as doing the show was with you. I will know it. I will know what is sacrosanct. I will know what we can.
That was funny.
I'll take that. See, that's how it works. We always know each other that way. That's the same way.
Damn right.
Yes, we're not going to get into that in the last break, are we? Going through the shopping list of what keeps and what stays.
So good.
I bet you never play this one.
I like rape.
I won't. How did you know that? You know me so well, don't you? You know me so well.
Well, hi, everybody.
Can you imagine if the first thing I did was to come in on Monday afternoon and play that one? I do it just to make your jaw drop.
Oh, no.
All right, you big lug.
Yeah.
Is it the Don and Mike Show? This is our final show together.
It's our final break together.
This is it. This is where the rubber hits the road.
So how come I can't stay for the whole show? I'm just kidding.
Because you're going to be here Monday.
I'm kidding.
Because Monday.
I'm kidding, of course. That's what we Irish do, In these emotional moments, we make jokes. We make light of the situation.
Monday, you've got the whole world in your hands.
I'd just like to say from the bottom of my heart, the station in Baltimore is making a terrible mistake for not carrying the last hour of this show.
Amen to that.
All right?
You bastards.
You butthead.
You bastards.
I mean, really, if there's one great son of a bitch that we can attack, it's that guy. That guy.
You don't want this guy.
I just wanted to say.
This guy. You don't want this guy.
I wanted to say while we're still on for all of his decisions. But anyway, it has been.
Oh, yeah, that's right. They're cutting us soon for that important Orioles pregame show.
and knowing them, they've probably already cut us now.
Well, Orioles fans. It's 2 hours before the game. Those gas bags are finally off the air.
Thank God. Thank you, do.
Now let's do traffic every 15 minutes.
Thank you, do. Yeah. Well, do you want to go first, or am I going first? Well, you get the last segment, so let me go first.
Go, please.
It is. We talked about the chemistry. We talked about the fact that that doesn't come. It's once in a lifetime if you have that opportunity, and that's what I wanted to say. We worked so well together. We fought so many battles together, but that is what I will remember more than anything. The two halves of one brain. The fact that we both had half a brain, and when we put them together, we had one. And that applied to doing the show. That applied to dealing with management. That applied to dealing with personal situations in life that we both had to deal with. And, the adversity that you have faced, I know you believe you came back too early. I know you probably should not have come back too early. And I also know that you came back too early because of an overwhelming sense of responsibility to all of us and your radio family. And I think I speak for the rest of the guys when I say we are all grateful for that. Even though I know you think you came back a little early, it, in a way, was such a good feeling for us when you did. And then as time went on, I think we all realized that you were still in pain, and no one understood that pain because you can't understand it unless you go through it. And you still hung in there, and you still did this. And right up till the end, right up until the very, very bitter end here, even with all the last-minute changes, you've still, as far as the relationship with me, you've been a stand-up guy with me, and you've been a stand-up guy with me throughout our 20 years. The good, the bad, the ugly. It's been how many people? Do you remember, I believe it was Jeffrey York who wrote in the Washington Post that we would be, 3 years, something like that, or we had fizzled and fizzed.
Not that you and I hold on to things, but it was 1987, and he wrote that we were like soda water that had lost its fizzle.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's what he said. And that was back at the very beginning. Here's the measure of a person, in my opinion. You mentioned it about Robb Spewak. I will mention it about you. I envy both you and Rob because I see the love of radio, but first, before that, I do see the dedication to your family, the dedication to your son, and I've been there. Somebody mentioned to me the other day, man, is Bart graduating college? I said, boy, I guess you remember him when he was just a teenager. And I looked at the guy. I said, I remember him when I was holding him on my back at
back at Disney World,
at the Living Seas. And you know what? That, I think, as much as I admire what you do on the radio, and I've learned so much from you watching you do this show, because really we watch each other work. There's another little cat out of the bag. We kind of watch each other, and we're kind of amazed. I think you get kind of weirded out when you see me dive into a character. I'll tell you, when I watch your fingers flying over the control board and playing 750 sound effects at one time, I'm amazed. I've never seen a better board op. I've never seen anybody that runs a tighter radio production than you do, and that is so important to this broadcast, and it has been for so long. But you take all the radio stuff out, you flush that away, because really what I've admired most is you were always the guy on Saturday that was loading the kids in the car and driving them all down to King's Dominion. You were always the guy that was going out to coach the basketball team, even though I knew you hated that because you had to deal with some of the other asshat parents that were out there with their type A personalities. But you were there for your son, and then in the most difficult of circumstances, you were there for your son like no one I've ever seen, and I was so proud of that Bart. Oh, there we go. That got me. That's the measure of a man. Give me a second. That's what you did. That's your greatest accomplishment. And that is what I admire about you the most. And there, hey, Rob, I said I wasn't going to get choked up. And see, I went there and I got choked up. But that is...
I will turn it around on you.
That is what I will always admire about you the very most. You take radio, put it in the back seat. It's the way you raised your family. And, you know, the love you showed that boy of yours, and you should be so proud of him. And I don't know if anybody's mentioned that, but that's the measure of a person as far as I'm concerned. And I love you, and you know that. And I'll miss you.
I'll turn it around.
I'll miss this day-to-day stuff we did, this insanity every day.
I'll miss so much about working with you, Mike. I will miss the fact that I could call you at 6 o'clock in the morning or 11 o'clock at night, and you never said, hey, don't bug me about this crap. You mentioned about my family. I'll tell you that I am proudest of you for the way you conducted your life after your divorce. That before that, I did not think you were the world's greatest dad.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's different with their kids. It's not my place to say. But man, after you realized that the kids are going to be moving out, you changed. You really, really did change.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, for every time that you talked about, you know, the way it used to be, like with the kids playing Crawl on Daddy because you were tired.
Mm-hmm.
You know, every single time that you would come in and say, I did this with the girls, and this with the girls, and this with the girls, that's when I was proudest of you as a person and as a man. Because I can now say the same to you with an absolute clear conscience looking you in the eyes. You are a great dad.
Thank you.
And that is so friggin' important to your girls that you're there for them. You and I have been through so much together. I don't know how to summarize it. I'm at a a loss for words. I'll never find anybody that I would have this type of on and off-air relationship with. Never. And, you know, maybe sometime down the road, man, you get through all this crap, however much money you have to make here, and I'll be there. And then we'll get back together. We'll do it the way we first started wanting to do it.
For fun.
Yep. I mean, even if you and I go to wherever, Florida, Ocean City, whatever, we'll find a radio station.
As we blow spit bubbles?
Yeah. Because I won't find someone who's so perfect for me to work with and such a good and loyal friend. And that's the main word that I would use for you, Mike, is loyal. That's what I appreciate about you. That over the time we've worked together, I've had more than one occasion when I've gotten in trouble. Either saying something that gets us sued by someone for $50 million or getting pulled over with weed in my car. And, you know, you never came down on me for that. I mean, we had discussions about it. And that's what good friends do. They have the real discussions about real things when they happen. We freaking dealt with it, didn't we?
We sure did. You handled it. You came out of it, and
you helped me handle it. And, you know, you son of a bitch, I wish you would just be leaving with me now. It'd be a lot easier.
I know.
It really would.
I know.
But, you know, you do what you got to do. And I love you like you're my brother.
Right back at you.
Okay. Now you have to go.
Thank you. And we will see each other in the future. Make no mistake about that.
That I can guarantee. Have a good show on Monday.
Thank you, and good luck. Be happy, damn it.
Off you go. It was a little pitchy. You made me cry. He's leaving with his pictures from the office.
I feel like I got fired.
Okay. How about some commercials? Be right back.
This is the Don and Mike Show. This is the Don and Mike Show.
Don, Joe Theismann. How you doing, buddy? I listen to your show every morning. I'm sitting at my farm, and I just heard the story about McMahon. And let me explain something to you. Okay. First of all, I've been there. See, you haven't been here for a short period of time. Yeah, it is me, Don. I'm not kidding. I'm flat square honest. I love your program in the morning, but you don't really know what Joe Theismann's like. You ever been in the Super Bowl?
What is he, a faggot?
The Don and Mike Show.
Damn right. They let you be the enema. The Don and Mike Show.
Take your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty ape!
What? Stop that! It's silly. Very silly indeed.
That's funny.
That was funny.
You think so?
What do you think, Jackson?
You're awful funny, aren't you?
Right.
All right. Little quiet for Super Jock.
Regularly, Jack. This is the last Don and Mike Show. On this Friday, April 11th. Me, Don. I got 3 more segments left. I got about 40 minutes of airtime left. So let's get to it. I try not to be morose about this. Again, I'll wind this up in the end, but I want to thank, it goes without saying, Mike, Buzz, Rob A., Joe, everybody that's worked on this show with me over the years. If you just get in your car and you're wondering what's going on, I'll be glad to recap for you. When we were on vacation, it struck me that I would be happier not doing the show. Not because I don't love radio or don't love the guys or love the show. It's because doing the show reminds me too much of Frieda. You know, everybody listening has to understand that when you lose someone, as I did with Frieda, you go through a period of time where you're grieving and you're angry, and then you get to the other side. and you realize that things can still be okay. There was a while, every Friday, for goodness sakes, the whole time that Frieda was with us, and even after she passed, I would end every Friday by playing Everlasting Love, which was one of our favorite songs. And I made a conscious decision to stop playing that about 2 months ago, not because I don't love Frieda, I do, but because by doing that, I'm reminding myself and reminding everybody listening on at least a subconscious level about how she's gone. And she's not coming back as much as I would like to change that. I'm having problems putting this into words, so bear with me, please. As I mentioned when everybody was here before, and I'll try to do this without breaking up now, I've been so blessed by God to have met Frieda and have her come into my life. I eulogized her after she was gone, and that's that. My love for her will never end, but on this show, there's too much of Frieda in this show for me to continue with this show. Because I love Janet. That may sound hurtful to some of you, but you just have to understand that that's the truth. Ruth, if the situations were reversed, I would not want Frieda hanging around being a sad sack, just pining for the days when we were together. I would want her to move on and hopefully meet somebody. And I have. And I'm thrilled about it. It's hard to go into detail on the radio here because most of you listening for over 20 years have been used to hearing me profess my love for one woman, saying it was absolute, no matter what happens, hell or highway, no what, she's my wife, no matter what. And then she was taken away from me. I came back on the air, and I found love almost 3 years later. As I mentioned earlier, I'm quite positive that Janet was brought down by God. And thank goodness I opened the door that God opened for me with Janet when she came along. Because as Frieda saved my life, literally about 25 years ago, so has Janet now. I can't keep doing a show where I'm laying my own personal mess of a life on the air every day, good, bad, or indifferent, and recreate what I had with Frieda, because that's never going to happen. And Janet knows that, and I know that, but I don't know if people listening to the radio know that. And I dig it, because death is a weird, awful thing. And I pray it doesn't happen to you, but it will. And I pray that if it does happen to you, or someone you love, that you're able to rebound, and you're able to come back. So that's why I got to move on. Because my life, unless those of you listening would like me to spend the rest of my life being sad and mad and angry, and have an awful lot of unresolved issues about why the love of my life was taken away. I don't know why I hit the lottery and met two women who are so spectacular, so similar yet so different. I don't know why I hit the jackpot to end up with the career that I've had. Because I am just a disc jockey. I don't have the talents of Mike or Buzz. I'm a guy that's always liked the intimacy of radio. There was one guy in a room with a big wall of sound behind him, and you could hide and pretend that you were someone else. And you could walk on the street, nobody knew who you were. We've had so much success, literally that can't happen anymore. That's why I wanted to end the Don and Mike show as I began my career by myself in a room, intimate like this, where I feel like I am just talking to one person right now, and that's the person that's listening. And I say thank you for listening. And I want you to know that I have been proud to live my life on the air, good, bad, indifferent. I am so blessed that I met Frieda and was welcomed into her family. They are my family now. Big Frieda's my mom. I'm so proud of my son and the man that he's become. It was hard, Frieda. It was so hard with him. But he is doing great. And my daughter, who I never thought I would see. For God's sakes, I thought she was dead 4 years ago. Well, she's back in my life, and it's an awful lot for me to handle while trying to juggle doing a wacky radio show. And sometimes I'm too sensitive. I had a much thicker skin, and I don't mind telling you now that I don't have quite such the thick skin. I don't know. If I continued like in this format, maybe I wouldn't be such a jerk to people. I don't know. Or my persona wouldn't be such a jerk to people. I don't know. I got a different outlook on life. I just want to be happy. And this wonderful bitch of a demon radio, something that's made me happy longer than anything or anybody in my life. And now I got to leave it for a while. Because there are too many memories that I have to just turn around and go the other way on. So, I read the message boards. I can read. A lot of you people are mad at me. So be it. I just want to tell you that I would certainly wish you the same chance at restarting your life if you have the awful fortune to go through what I've gone through. And I'm not being a martyr because everybody goes through this. Just it's hard to do it on the radio. But I love the fact that you have embraced me all of these years with all of my warts and all of my faults. And that you have listened through thick and thin and supported us through every goddamn stuff. The loves of my life go like this. Radio, my family, God, and the Green Bay Packers. And the order changes all the time. But I'll miss you. I love this industry. I want to come back to this industry, but I want to come back to this industry as a healed person. And not someone who I would go home and be embarrassed about things I'd done on the air. Because I was mad. Well, I'm not mad now. Even though I'm crying, it's just because I'll miss everybody. And I got a break because we're running late. Put that on my tombstone. You missed a stop set. I got 2 breaks left here. We'll talk a little bit about some of the people that were very influential in my radio career when we come back. And then a little bit about all of these special people, including the very special women in my life. So, listen, thanks for listening all these years. No kidding. I'll be right back.
This is the Don and Mike Show. This is the Don and Mike Show.
Here on the main music mother, Blue 128.
pranksters to entertain ye. Don and Mike.
You know what? I forgot to play for Buzz today.
I'm the oldest man in the world.
Buzz is old.
That is so true, Dick.
Damn right.
Damn right.
Goddamn right.
Damn right.
Why do you favor race?
Oh, stop it.
I like rape.
Stop the damn dirty ape.
Take your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty ape.
This was my swan song for a while. Hi, everybody. Don and Mike Show. Everybody's gone except me. I think I got my emotions in check here for this break. I do want to thank you so much for listening all these years. Get to that in uno momento. Hey, don't forget, buddy. Hey, it's the Mike O'Mara Show, Graham. Starting Monday on many of these stations. So don't be an ass. Listen to Mike's show, please. My thanks to Jack Diamond, who Rob just told to leave. We have fun to the end. I don't know if you can hear the big lug laughing. Harvey, thank you for coming by. Just I'm a little emotional right now. Jack Diamond used to be on the all-hate list, but even that cat showed his true colors when Frieda passed away. So thanks for the cigars, Harvey. I do appreciate it. About radio, this business I love so much, just tearing me up. As I mentioned before, I am a stupid, talentless disc jockey. My talent is beyond having the ability to air laundry, good, bad, indifferent. I'm also good at talking over records. That's how I got into radio. That's probably where I'll end up after this. And a lot of people helped me out. I mean, I started working part-time in radio when I was 11 in 1969 at Armed Forces Radio in Heidelberg, Germany. And then I had my first actual paying job when I was, I want to say 13, when I ran the Jesus tapes on Winks at Rockville, little AM station. You go and run the religious stuff on Sunday morning. It was a chance to hang around the radio station. Well, in the 35-plus years, excuse me, that I've been in radio, a lot of people I'd like to thank, a lot of people I've never mentioned before, besides all the guys on the show who you know about, who have my love and my respect forever. I hope some of this gets back to some of these people, because these, in some cases, are a couple of people I've never mentioned on the air. There's one cat named Carl Hamilton. I'm pretty sure that Carl is the general manager at a CBS station now in Houston.
I better bring my rubbers.
Sorry, I hit the wrong button. I was going for the ha-ha, because he works for CBS. Anyway, way back, anywho, how are you anyway? Way back in the middle 70s, when I was still going to high school, before I got out, this guy hired me to work from 10 at night till 2 in the morning on WROK in Rockford, Illinois. And Carl Hamilton took the time to sit me down and say, you've got talent, but a guy like you has to work harder. You're going to have to do more than people, because there's people with more talent than you. And a lot of that is stage presence. And hard to believe that at a 5,000-watt AM station in Rockville, Illinois, in 1975, a guy would be telling me about stage presence. But I want to thank Carl Hamilton, because I have never one day in my life been afraid to talk in public, go on a microphone, or get in front of a group of people. And I owe that to Carl Hamilton. I've talked a lot about Scott Shannon on this show over the years. I wouldn't be here today without Scott Shannon. That guy taught me that you really can't have fun. Because way back when my path crossed with Scott Shannon in 1979, even back then, nearly 20 years ago, 70, 80, 90, almost 30 years ago, I was beginning to get burned out on the program directors telling me to shut up. And he was a guy that hired me and said, boy, I want you to talk over every record, and I want you to talk as much as you want. And he was a great influence. The guy who most influenced my radio career, especially playing records, is a cat named John Records Landecker. I'm telling you, this guy was the real deal. I cannot tell you how many years I spent sitting in my car not wanting to go inside because John Landecker was doing his boogie check. I stole that. Like everything on this show, it's stolen. Everybody in America at one point did a boogie check back in the late 70s, early 80s, where you would take phone calls for 5 minutes on the air. That was originated by the great John Records Landecker. Well, let me see. I would listen to him, and I would copy him. I mean, I think it's that way in a lot of businesses. You find someone and you think, I want to be like that guy. That guy sounds so great. That guy's got the attitude I want. That guy's funny. That guy's smart. That guy's fast. He's tight. He's the best. I had a chance in my career to be one of the people who attempted to replace John Landecker when he left WLS in Chicago. I failed. I mean, the guy's a legend. But it was so gratifying to work with the guy that I had listened to as a kid at the same radio station. And then many years later, 3 or 4 years later, as it turns out, I'm doing a personality morning show in Chicago. And he's on a morning show where they're making him shut up and play 4 records in a row with no talk. How Bass Ackwood's radio is. One morning, phone screener, Buzz was doing the show back with me back then, on B96 in Chicago. Someone came in and said, hey, John Landecker's on the phone, on the request line. He called up because he was listening to my show because he couldn't talk. They would let him talk for 4 records in a row. And he said, kid, you sound great. And what started at WLS with me idolizing this guy came full circle. Not that he idolizes me, but that I saw John Landecker for the man he was, which is just a regular guy with an incredible amount of talent who was nice enough to give some hope to me. So, John, if you're out there, anybody listening out there, you're the greatest. John Landecker, thank you. Buddy Scott. Buzz and I have talked about Buddy Scott before, the program director at B96. Buddy's the first guy that gave me a shot at a big-time morning show. And, Buddy, I'll never forget you for that. You wanted 10 records an hour, but you put me on in the morning against Larry Lou Jack, and I thank you for that. Excuse me. Current president of CBS Radio, Dan Mason. This guy taught me a life lesson back in 1978. I was a bit of a floater in radio. I was going from job to job to job to job to job, climbing the ladder. He was the program director at WPGC in Washington, D.C. He flew me in. He said to me, you're the best guy for the job, the most talented disc jockey I've ever heard. You cannot stay at a radio station more than a year, so I can't hire you. Flew me into town to tell me that. Well, I needed to hear from someone that in order to make it in radio, I was going to have to stay at a station more than a year. Excuse me. So, Dan, for that, I thank you. A life lesson I had to learn. I had a wonderful conversation with Dan this morning. Dan is now the president of CBS Radio. One of the few men in this business, in this industry, in his position that's not a total dumbass. Thank you, Dan. Thank you for your support, then and now. Managers. Had a bunch of really good ones. John Guerin from WLS in Chicago. What a brilliant guy. He listened to my audition tapes for 7 years until he hired me. And after every one, I would get a letter back saying, you're getting better, but do this and do this and do this. Thank you, John. Alan Goodman. Mike and I had him as our general manager at WAVA. Big Al, your radio pal. You are the single greatest showman I've ever met in radio. Nobody understood the concept of theater, of the mind, more than you, Al. Mike and I both owe you an awful lot. Ken Stevens, the Jackal Ken, you stood by me every single time. And I thank you. You son of a bitch. And our current manager, Michael Hughes. What can I say? This sums it up with him. When I arrived today at the station, Michael said, he greeted me, we embraced. He said, we've got a wonderful gift for you. It's just not arrived yet. And that's Michael Hughes. But he's the guy that was in the seat at the very end, and I thank him for his support as well. All of these people have helped me over the years. I'm always on the side of talent, whether it be a sports star, a rock star, a movie star, the guy who's the best salesman in his store, the guy who drives his route most efficiently. I am always a fan of someone who gets it done, and have always stood behind those who do the heavy lifting, deserve the heavy rewards. I learned that from all of these people, and you have made me a better person and hopefully a better broadcaster. I thank all of you. There's a lot more. I went through a partial list with Mike when he was here about some of the people we've had on the show over the years, our staff, incredible. I mean, it's humbling that so many talented people have come through our doors. And it's even more humbling that as I leave and Mike continues, that, boy, this is going to sound awful, but I'm going to say it. I feel so good because these are all people that I picked. Mike and Rob and Buzz and Beth Ann and Joe. These are all people that I picked, that I thought were good and talented. And I'm so proud, I am, that they're going to be continuing. I love radio. I love every second of it. Even now, when I'm getting ready to leave, I love it. And I don't think I'm a very humble person on the radio, because I don't think you'd listen if I was the real me on the radio. But I'm being humble now. It's the real me now. I do not deserve the good fortune I've had in this industry. And I am beholden to all of those people and many, many more. And I say to all of them, thank you. And I love this business. I love our listeners. And when we come back, I will play 2 songs for you. And then, as Dennis Miller would say, that's the news, and I am out of here. He's got a radio show, right? How's that working out for him? We'll be right back. Thank you.
This is the Don and Mike Show. This is the Don and Mike Show.
Derek?
What do you want?
Actually, I'm trying to talk to Mugatu, but he's tougher to get to than the president.
Oh, thought you were going to tell me what a bad Googleizer I am.
A what?
A Googleizer? One who speaks at funerals? Or did you think I'd be too stupid to know what a googly was?
The Don and Mike Show.
But I know how that cat felt. Man, oh, Shevitz. I'll miss you guys. I miss you all very much. I don't think he loves football as much as I love radio. I don't think that's the case. I remember, hey, it's the Don and Mike Show, last show ever, last 10 minutes here. Appreciate you listening. Just me, Don. Everybody else is split. I remember sitting in a car in a radio station parking lot with a guy listening to Larry Lujak do his last show, and WCFL changed formats. I would stay up all night going to Denny's with my friends, talking about what we were going to achieve in the radio business and the dragons that we were going to slay. And here we are 35 years later, and there's not a lot of us left from that era. I've worked with so many great guys, and I was sitting here just realizing all of the names that I'm forgetting. Howard Hoffman, great friend. Dave Fox, best man at my wedding. Lou Katz, a lifelong friend. Wally Dempsey. All of these guys were guys that I've known and loved my whole life. All of them involved in radio, and for that I thank them. I've got some limited time here. I'm going to play 2 songs because sometimes they're easier than actually talking. The first one is going to be from my family. From my son, my daughter, my mom, Big Frieda, and the gal who I'm going to marry next summer, Janet. Because this all ends on Monday. And come Monday, I will be your normal guy. Yeah. No, that's... Hi. Hi. That's for Frieda, too. But that's mainly for my family. Because when Monday comes, I won't be thinking about this show, which will be hard. We've been off the air about a month. I've had a lot of time to think about what I'd like to say. I can't believe that I'm actually leaving of my own accord. I love doing this so much. I think I've tried to articulate today why I'm leaving now. To you people who listened all of these years, I have never properly thanked you for your support. Mike and I have come on over the years and bragged about our ratings and our contracts and how great our lives are. And I've often said to people, this is not like sports where you pay the salaries, so shut up. But the truth is, that was just me being the hypocrite that I am. It is about you guys. Because if you don't listen, I don't care if you're the nicest guy in the world, the meanest guy in the world, the least talented or the most talented. In this biz, there's one axiom that's been true since day one. 3 R's, ratings, revenue, rock and roll. You got to have the ratings and you got to have the revenue, and that makes the rock and roll. And it does not happen without you. Every day, you punched in. And I appreciate it. You know, Mike does and everybody else does. This is my last chance for a while to be on the radio. So I want to tell you, I more than appreciate it. I love you for it. I can't think of too many things in my life that I feel about the way that I know a lot of people feel about this show. And I dig that about you guys. I know what it's like on the days when we weren't here, when you didn't know where we were, and no one would tell you anything, and you'd feel angry or betrayed. Well, kids, that's how big-time radio is. I mean, to do a radio show, it used to be you needed a microphone and a box of records. Now you need a microphone and 2 lawyers. Biz has changed, but the one thing that has not changed is that if you can make a connection with people, you, the broadcaster, shall be rewarded. And you guys have rewarded all of us. You have made some very important things in my life the important things that they are. I think without this show, I would never have been able to publicly let it hang out about Frieda, my life now with Janet, my kids. I mean, if I did make a mistake by coming back too soon. but there's a part of me that says I'm glad I did. One of the last books that Frieda bought me before she died was a book called Blink. And she said the book reminded her of me. Because the basic premise of this book is, how do you find people who can just see a situation and immediately say, I'm going to go through the left door or the right door? Not stand there and waver. Just pick a door and go through it. And hell be with the consequences. That is how I have operated on the radio. And it is a slippery slope. Oh, that's for you, Rob. A slippery slope. But every time I got our teat in a ringer, boy, were you guys there. I've read a lot of very nice, very flattering stuff this week on WJFK.com with people telling Mike and I what we've heard privately from listeners. You know, you guys helped me through this. You guys helped me through that. Well, you out there, Josephine listener, you've helped me through my entire life. I have been proud to come in every day and do this. Proud of my family. Proud of my friends. And I'm very sad that it's ending like this for us right now. I would like it to continue. And it will someday. Just not on Monday. Mike, don't F it up. I said that with love. If he's listening, he's laughing right now. Buzz, know your talent. Don't be afraid of success, Michael Elston. Rob, you are my best friend, and I love you. Take care of your family, please. And I guess that's about it. We may actually be a minute early. How about we take a phone call? Hey, a phone call. No, I'm effing with you. I turned the phones off. I'll miss that. I'll miss all these jingles.
The Don and Mike Show.
Yeah, baby.
WJFK.
Yeah, baby.
Don and Mike.
Yeah.
WJFK.
How about some acapella, baby?
The Don and Mike Show.
I'll miss all of you tapes. I'll miss you, number 50.
I like rape.
Mike doesn't want that one.
That is so true, Dick.
Oh, it is. And Simon, you bastard.
Shut up.
You know I'll still be calling Rob on Tuesday nights and Wednesday nights. And if you think me leaving will stop these guys from talking about American Idol, you're nuts. That's all we did today during the breaks was talk about it. That's it. I've had a career to this point that I had never imagined. I am just a dumb, stupid disc jockey who's the luckiest guy in the world. So for everybody on the show, I thank you for listening. I thank you for your patronage. And I'm sure if you got a radio, I'll be on it someday. So, for the last time, until next time, this is me saying thank you both for listening. I love you, Frieda. I love you, Bart, Amy, Janet, Big Frieda, Mike, Buzz, Joe, Robbie, and especially you out there listening. God bless you. Until we meet again, this is for you on the Don and Mike Show. This is how I feel about you.
Just people.
This is the Don and Mike Show.